The signal had been sent 47 times. Each time, it traveled across the cold silence of space, carrying one simple message: we need help. Each time, no one answered. Far beyond the busy trade routes of the galaxy, the small world of Valera was dying. Fires burned across its silver cities. The sky, once bright with peaceful ships and research stations, was now dark with enemy warcraft. The Valari were not warriors. They were scientists, builders, teachers. For centuries, they had shared knowledge with the Galactic Council. They had healed diseases, improved energy systems, and mapped dangerous star systems for others. But they had never built weapons. Now, that mistake was costing them everything. The Corthan Empire had arrived without warning. Their ships were massive and covered in black armor. Their message was short and cruel: surrender your world or be erased. The Valari tried to negotiate. They offered resources. They offered technology. They even offered their own spaceports. The Corthan answered with orbital bombardment. Buildings shattered. Defense satellites exploded in seconds. Valari cities that had stood for 300 years turned into dust in a single night. Their small defense fleet tried to fight, but it lasted only 12 minutes. 12 minutes. That was all it took for the Valari to lose control of their skies. In the underground command center, High Scholar Maris stood in silence, watching the tactical display. Red lights covered the planet. Each red light marked another lost district. Send the signal again, Maris said quietly. A young technician hesitated. We already sent it, Scholar. The Council has seen it. Send it again. The signal went out for the 48th time. Across the galaxy, the message arrived at the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council. Representatives from dozens of powerful species listened as the Valari's plea echoed in the hall. The Valari are peaceful, one council member said. They offer no military value. The Corthan are expanding, another added. If we interfere, it may lead to full war. Silence filled the chamber. Finally, the council speaker made the decision. The council will not intervene. The vote was recorded. The message was sent. Back on Valera, the final response arrived. It was not a fleet. It was not help. It was a formal notice of regret. The galaxy had turned away. Maris closed her eyes as the message finished playing. Around her, the command center felt smaller. Colder. Above them, another explosion shook the ground. Dust fell from the ceiling. Somewhere far above, children were being moved into deeper shelters. Families were saying goodbye. The Corthan fleet began preparing for planetary invasion. Landing ships formed into lines. Heavy cruisers aimed their weapons at the last shield generators. A Corthan commander appeared on every Valari screen. You were offered surrender, he said calmly. Now you will be conquered. The Valari had no answer. Their last orbital defense platform fired once before being destroyed. Their power grid began to fail. One by one, their cities went dark. In the underground shelters, Valari children sat quietly, holding small data tablets that showed stars they would never visit. Teachers tried to smile. Scientists tried to find impossible solutions. Maris stood alone in the command center and looked at the star map. So this is how we end, she whispered. Then something changed. A soft alert sounded from the long-range scanner. At first, no one noticed. It was just a small light blinking in the corner of the display. The young technician turned toward it slowly. Scholar, there is something. Maris stepped closer. Corthan reinforcements. No, the technician said. His voice shook. Unknown signature. It just entered the system. The object was not coming from Corthan space. It had not used council jump gates. It had simply appeared. A single ship. Not large. Not heavily armed, at least not by known standards. Its design was strange, sharp, and unfamiliar. The Corthan fleet paused. Their formation shifted slightly, confused. A new signal began transmitting from the unknown ship. It was not sent to the Council. It was not sent to the Corthan. It was sent directly to Valera. The command center fell completely silent as the message translated into Valari language. Only 4 words appeared on the screen. "We heard your signal." And for the first time since the invasion began, hope moved through the darkness. The single ship did not move. It simply floated between the burning world of Valera and the massive Corthan war fleet. For several long seconds, nothing happened. Then the Corthan flagship sent a sharp transmission. "Unidentified vessel," the Corthan commander said coldly, "you are trespassing in Imperial military space. Leave immediately or be destroyed." The strange ship did not retreat. Inside the Valari command center, High Scholar Maris watched carefully. The ship's structure was different from anything recorded in the Galactic archives. It was compact, layered with thick armor plates and glowing engine cores that pulsed with steady blue light. A reply signal came from the unknown vessel. The voice was calm. Deep. Controlled. "This is Terran defense ship Resolute. We received a distress signal from this system. We are responding." The translation software struggled with the word Terran. "Terran," one technician whispered. "There is no Terran species registered in the Council." The Corthan commander gave a slow smile. "Then you are not protected by Council law," he replied. "This world belongs to the Corthan Empire now. Leave, and you will survive." A pause followed. Then the human voice answered. "No." The word was simple. Clear. Final. Across space, several Corthan cruisers adjusted their weapons. Energy built along their cannons. The Corthan commander spoke one last time. "You stand alone." For a moment, it seemed true. Only one human ship faced an entire invasion fleet. Then the long-range scanners on Valera began flashing again. Another signature appeared. Then another. Then 5 more. Small points of light tore open the darkness behind the first Terran ship. Space itself seemed to bend as new vessels exited faster than light travel. They formed a loose line behind the Resolute. The Corthan ships shifted uneasily. In the Valari command center, someone gasped. "It is not one ship," the technician whispered. "It is a fleet. Not large by galactic standards. Only 12 ships in total. But they positioned themselves carefully, forming a shield between the Corthan armada and the damaged planet below." The Terran commander spoke again. "You are attacking a civilian world," he said. "Stand down. Withdraw your forces. This is your only warning." The Corthan commander laughed openly. "You are 12 ships," he replied. "We are 80. You have no allies here. No supply lines. No support." The human voice remained steady. "We don't need allies." Without further warning, the Corthan fleet fired. Bright streams of energy shot across space toward the human line. Valari officers held their breath. The first Terran ship took the hit directly. The explosion was blinding. Shockwaves rolled across nearby vessels. For a heartbeat, the human formation disappeared inside fire and debris. In the Valari shelter below, children screamed as the sky flashed bright again. In the command center, Maris felt her heart sink. "They are gone," someone said quietly. But as the light faded, the Terran ships were still there. Their shields glowed fiercely, absorbing the impact. Armor burned, but the ships held their position. Then the human fleet moved. Not backward. Forward. Their engines flared bright blue as they accelerated straight toward the larger Corthan formation. The Terran commander gave a new order, broadcast openly on all channels. Valari Ground Command, remain in shelters. We will handle this. Handle this. The word sounded impossible. Human ships split into smaller attack groups. They did not follow traditional council battle patterns. They moved unpredictably, weaving between enemy fire with tight, aggressive turns. One Terran vessel broke through the Corthan front line and fired a concentrated beam directly into a cruiser's engine core. The cruiser exploded. Silence followed for half a second across all frequencies. The Corthan commander's expression changed. This was no random traveler. This was not a mistake. The humans were fighting to protect a species they had never met. More Terran ships emerged from hyperspace. Not dozens. Not hundreds. But enough to change the balance. The Valari scanners struggled to count them all. Maris stepped closer to the display, hope and fear mixing in her chest. "Who are they?" she whispered. As another Corthan cruiser burst into flame, the Terran commander sent one final message, not just to the Corthan, but to the entire system. "You left them to die," he said calmly. "We did not." And the battle for Valera truly began. The battle did not slow down. It became worse. Corthan ships surrounded the human fleet from three sides. Heavy destroyers moved above Valera's orbit, trying to cut off escape paths. Fighters swarmed like dark insects, filling space with red beams of light. The humans did not retreat. They moved closer to the planet. Inside the Valari Command Center, High Scholar Maris watched in disbelief. No species fought like this. Council fleets always calculated risk first. They protected their strongest ships. They avoided damage whenever possible. The humans did the opposite. Two Terran ships shifted position directly above Valera's largest remaining city. They turned their backs toward the planet and faced the Corthan fleet instead. "They are exposing their engines," a Valari officer said in shock. "No," Maris replied softly. "They are shielding us." The next Corthan bombardment wave crashed into the human ships instead of the planet. Explosions covered the sky, but the city below survived. On the Terran flagship Resolute, warning alarms echoed across the bridge. Several sections were damaged. One support cruiser had already been destroyed. Casualty reports flashed across screens. The human admiral did not look away. "Status," he said firmly. "Enemy reinforcements entering from the outer ring," an officer answered. "They are trying to surround us." The admiral nodded once. "Then we break the ring." Human ships accelerated again, pushing directly into the densest part of the Corthan formation. It made no sense. It was reckless. It was dangerous. It was effective. Terran vessels were smaller, but faster. They targeted weapon systems first, not command centers. They disabled instead of scattering shots. Every movement had purpose. One Corthan cruiser fired point-blank at a Terran frigate. The human ship's shields failed instantly. Its hull split open. The Valari Command Center went silent as the damaged ship began to fall toward the planet. Then something unexpected happened. The broken Terran ship adjusted its engines and deliberately crashed into a Corthan destroyer instead. Both ships exploded. The Corthan attack line broke. "They chose that," a Valari technician whispered. "They sacrificed their ship." Maris felt something shift inside her. The humans were not fighting for territory. They were fighting for them. On the ground, in a ruined Valari city, something else was happening. Small Terran landing craft entered the atmosphere. Not many. Only a handful. They landed near evacuation zones where Corthan troops had begun surface assault. Human soldiers stepped out. Their armor was heavy and simple. Their movements were fast. They did not hesitate. Corthan ground forces were larger, stronger, and built for war. But the humans did not fear them. They protected the evacuation routes first. They positioned themselves between civilians and enemy fire. They carried injured Valari to safety even while shooting back. A young Valari child looked up at one of the armored humans. "Why are you helping us?" she asked softly. The human paused only for a second. "Because someone should." Above the planet, the battle grew even more violent. The Corthan commander realized something important. The humans were outnumbered. Even with reinforcements, the Terran fleet was smaller. 3 Corthan ships for every 1 human vessel. The commander gave a harsh order. "Overwhelm them. All forces. End this now." Energy signatures spiked across the battlefield. The next attack wave would be massive. Inside the Resolute, the human admiral received the numbers. He knew the truth. They could not win this fight alone. But he also knew something else. "Signal Earth," he ordered. "Transmission sent," his officer replied. "How long until they receive it?" "Minutes." The admiral looked at the burning world below. "We just have to hold." Corthan cannons fired together. The blast was unlike anything before. It struck the Terran line with terrifying force. 2 more human ships were destroyed. Another drifted powerless. Valari sensors showed human losses rising fast. Maris gripped the edge of the command table. "They cannot survive this," someone whispered. Then the long-range scanners changed again. A new mass jump signature appeared at the edge of the system. It was not small. It was not 12 ships. It was something far larger. Even the Corthan fleet paused. Maris stared at the growing energy readings. "How many?" she asked quietly. The technician's voice trembled. "Too many to count." And in the dark between stars, humanity was arriving in full. Space did not tear open gently. It shattered. Across the outer edge of the Valera system, light bent and twisted as massive jump signatures forced their way into normal space. One after another, shapes emerged from the distortion, huge, armored vessels unlike anything the Valari had ever seen. These were not small defense ships. These were warships built for total conflict. The Corthan fleet stopped firing. For the first time since the invasion began, silence spread across the battlefield. In the Valari command center, every screen filled with new readings. Ship after ship appeared in formation. Their hulls were marked with the same symbol seen on the first vessel, a blue sphere crossed by a single white line. "How many are there?" Maris asked again. The technician swallowed. 200, no, more. They are still coming. At the center of the new formation, one ship dwarfed the others. It was longer than the Valari capital city. Its surface carried heavy weapon arrays and thick layered shields. A transmission burst across all frequencies. "This is Terran High Command," a new voice said. It was older. Strong. Unshaken. "Corthan forces, you are engaged in unauthorized planetary extermination. Withdraw immediately." The Corthan commander tried to maintain control. "You trespass in Imperial territory," he replied sharply. "This conflict does not concern you." There was no anger in the human response. "It concerns us now." The massive Terran fleet moved forward as one. Valari sensors showed something shocking. The first human ships that had arrived, the smaller fleet, pulled back slightly. They were damaged. Burned. Some barely functional. They had never been the main force. They had only been the shield. The true weight of humanity was only arriving now. The Corthan commander gave the order to fire. But fear had already spread through his ranks. Some ships hesitated. Others fired too early. Their once perfect formation broke apart under pressure. The Terran fleet answered with precision. Coordinated beams struck key Corthan battleships at the same time. Engines failed. Shield grids collapsed. Human fighters launched in organized waves, targeting weapon systems and communication arrays. They did not attack wildly. They dismantled. One by one, Corthan cruisers went dark. In orbit above Valera, the massive human supercarrier deployed defense satellites around the planet. Energy shields expanded, covering entire continents in blue light. For the first time since the invasion began, Valera was no longer exposed. On the ground, human soldiers pushed Corthan troops back toward their landing zones. Evacuation centers stabilized. Medical teams worked without interruption. A Valari scientist stood beside a human field medic and watched as he treated an injured child. "You fight like this, for strangers?" she asked quietly. The medic did not look up from his work. "We are not strangers," he said. "Not anymore." Above, the Corthan flagship attempted to escape. It turned its engines toward deep space, trying to flee the system before complete destruction. The Terran High Command ship adjusted its position. "You are not leaving," the calm voice said over open channel. A single concentrated beam fired from the human flagship. It pierced the Corthan vessel from end to end. The flagship split apart in silence. The remaining Corthan ships began broadcasting surrender signals. Others fled blindly in different directions, chased by Terran interceptors. Within minutes, the organized invasion fleet no longer existed. The Valari command center slowly filled with soft sounds, not alarms, not explosions. Breathing. Maris stared at the tactical display. The red lights were fading. For the first time in days, no new ones appeared. A final Terran transmission arrived, directed only to Valera. "The threat has been neutralized," the older voice said. "Planetary shields are stable. Medical and supply ships are approaching your surface." Maris felt her legs weaken slightly. "You came," she whispered to herself. But before relief could fully settle, a new signal entered the system. It was not Corthan. It was not Terran. It carried the official seal of the Galactic Council. The message was urgent. "Terran High Command," the Council speaker said as his image appeared on shared transmission, "you have violated Interstellar Conflict Protocol. Stand down immediately. Further action will be considered an act of aggression." The Valari Command Center grew tense again. The human flagship remained silent for several seconds. Then the Terran High Command responded. "We answered a distress call," the calm voice said. "If that is aggression, then perhaps your laws need rewriting." The Council speaker's expression hardened. "You are destabilizing the balance of power." The human reply came without hesitation. "Balance without justice is not peace." Across Valera, Valari citizens looked up at the sky, now protected by human shields. For the first time, the galaxy was not silent. And it was about to change forever. The battlefield was quiet. Broken Corthan ships drifted through space like dark metal ghosts. Rescue lights from Terran vessels moved carefully between them. Human ships were not celebrating. They were scanning for survivors, even enemy survivors. Above Valera, the blue planetary shield glowed softly, protecting the wounded world below. But the war was no longer just about the Corthan. It was about something much larger. The Galactic Council fleet entered the system 2 hours later. Dozens of elegant warships arrived in perfect formation. Their white and gold hulls were clean, untouched by battle. They positioned themselves at a safe distance from the Terran armada. They had come to observe. High Scholar Maris stood once more in the Valari Command Center. This time, the air did not shake with explosions. It felt heavy for another reason. The Council speaker appeared again on open transmission. "Terran High Command," he said formally, "you have interfered in a recognized territorial expansion conflict." The Corthan Empire was operating within Council tolerance limits. A quiet wave of anger moved through the Valari officers. Territorial expansion. That was what they called near extinction. The Terran flagship answered calmly. The Valari sent 48 distress calls, the human commander said. You received them. They were evaluated, the speaker replied. Strategic value was minimal. On Valera's surface, human medical ships were landing in destroyed cities. Supplies were being unloaded. Temporary power stations were being built beside broken structures. Minimal value. The words echoed across the command center. The Terran voice grew slightly colder. They are alive. That is value. Silence followed. The Council ships shifted slightly, scanning the massive Terran fleet. The humans now clearly outnumbered the Council presence in the system. This was no longer a small unknown species. This was a power. You risk open conflict with the Council, the speaker warned. No, the Terran commander replied. We risked conflict to stop slaughter. There is a difference. The Council did not respond immediately. On the surface, Valari civilians slowly emerged from shelters. They stared at the sky, where unfamiliar human ships now moved like guardians instead of invaders. A small Valari child pointed upward. Will they leave too? She asked her teacher. The teacher did not know the answer. In orbit, a new signal began spreading across the galactic network. It was not sent by the Council. It was not sent by the Corthan. It was sent by Valera. High Scholar Maris stepped forward and activated the transmission herself. To all species listening, she began, her voice steady despite everything, we asked for help. The galaxy judged us unworthy. Humanity did not. She paused. They fought for a world they did not know. They lost ships for lives that were not their own. The message spread rapidly through trade channels, private networks, even restricted Council frequencies. Across distant star systems, smaller species listened carefully. Species that were weak. Species that were afraid. Species that had always depended on Council approval to survive. The Council speaker looked troubled as reports began flowing in. Other worlds were sending questions. Some were sending quiet requests for contact with Earth. The balance of power was shifting, not because of weapons, but because of trust. The Terran commander sent one final message to the Council. We will not rule Valera, he said. We will not claim territory. When they are stable, our fleet will reduce presence. The speaker looked surprised. You seek no control. We seek accountability. Behind the Terran fleet, repair ships began assisting damaged Valari stations. Engineers transmitted power grid designs. Medical data was shared freely. No contracts. No demands. Just help. Hours later, the Council fleet slowly withdrew from the system. Not defeated. But silent. Valera remained under Terran protection. Days passed. The fires stopped burning. The sky cleared. For the first time since the invasion, Valari ships began launching again, escorted by Terran patrol craft. Before departing, the human admiral sent a direct message to Maris. If you ever send another distress call, he said, you will not wait alone. Maris looked up at the blue shield above her world. Across the galaxy, in dark regions far from safe trade routes, something new began happening. When small worlds whispered for help. When powerful empires ignored them. Another signal sometimes appeared shortly after. Simple. Clear. We heard you. And this time, the galaxy listened.